Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is orientation for volunteers helping out on World Refugee Day. And hopefully you know the date, Friday and Saturday, June 21st and 22nd, this coming weekend. And we're really excited to have you all joining us and helping make this event possible, because truly it would not be possible without the help and support of you all. So thank you for coming to help out with things that might seem small but are huge for all of us that are resource providers in the refugee community. It makes a difference and makes the event more enjoyable for everyone. So thank you, thank you. Here's the information about the event here. It's at Big Cottonwood Regional Park in Mill Creek, and I'll show you a map of the event toward the end where you'll be able to see how the park will be oriented on the day of the event, and you can look over that if you'd like to. We're going to start with a pop quiz. So for this, I will invite you to turn your cameras on if you're joining us virtually, and I'm going to ask you to give me a thumbs up in your camera if you think that the statement is true, and a thumbs down in the camera if you think the statement is false. We're going to learn a little bit about refugees. Okay, give you a second to get your cameras turned on. Let's see how we do. And Chris, if I say anything wrong, you can jump in and correct me. I hope you will. First question, true or false? A refugee is someone who's been forced to flee their country because of persecution, war, or violence. A refugee has a well-founded fear of persecution for reasons of race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. So if you think it's true, give me a thumbs up. If you think it's false, thumbs down. Okay, looks like we've got some great students who got thumbs up. Yes, it's true. And while we may refer to other groups of individuals as being refugees, the legal term for refugee fits this really specific definition. So someone who has refugee status in the United States fits this definition. Okay. True or false? Humanitarian parolee is the status given to recently arrived Ukrainians and Afghans, and that as far as their legal status is not refugee. Yeah, some of us, maybe I don't know. That's okay. You can do kind of like a lukewarm thumb to the side if that feels better. This is true. So humanitarian parolee is the term, even though we may refer to them as refugees, those that fled because of war, etc., in Ukraine and Afghanistan most recently. But their actual status is humanitarian parolee. Just an interesting thing to know. True or false? It's anticipated that roughly 1,200 refugees will be resettled here in Utah in 2024. Maybe you guys see that I'm making this quiz really easy on you. Yeah, this one is also true. So far we're all true. True or false? Utah welcomes more refugees each year than any other state.
I think so. No.
You didn't fall for my trick. This is false. Utah does not welcome more refugees than any other state. Although for the size of our state and for the amount of resources, we resettle a lot, at least for like a ratio compared to maybe some other larger states. And again, I'll invite Chris to correct me if I'm wrong about these things. Chris knows all these facts.
So far, so good.
Okay, thank you. True or false? Utah's home to around 68,000 refugees, and most of those 68,000 live in Salt Lake County. Yeah, if Chris says it's true, then it's true.
It actually is most likely much higher than this, but we do not know for sure because the last time that we have gathered information data on it was over 6 years ago.
Yeah, so this is an estimate. And another thing to note too is that a lot of folks might resettle themselves again after initial resettlement in Salt Lake. So there are a lot of people who came to Utah as refugees in Salt Lake, but now they live in Logan. And there are refugees resettling directly in Logan now. Okay. True or false? World Refugee Day involves over 40 partnering organizations, engages between 6,000 and 8,000 attendees from more than 30 nationalities.
True.
It's true, and you'll get to see those partnering organizations if you haven't been to World Refugee Day before. It's really fun to see all the organizations working together. We all already work together a lot, but that we get to actually be together in one place is really fun. But it's a busy event and great opportunity to meet new folks. So that is the end of my true or false questions. Does anyone have any questions about some of the things that we've discussed so far? I'm a teacher, so I wait an uncomfortable amount of time when I ask a question. I want to make sure that you get that chance to ask your question. If at any point you do have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat if you want to, or you can unmute yourself and interrupt me if you'd like. Okay. A couple quick facts. We've already talked about 68,000 refugees live in Utah, mostly in Salt Lake County. This is over a long period of time, not current resettlement numbers, that the majority of refugees in Utah come from the countries that are listed here. But in recent years, these are not the most common countries where people are being resettled from. I don't know if Chris, you want to comment on that? This is like in the long term of Utah's resettlement history.
Yeah, I mean, most of you are probably aware we haven't received refugees from Vietnam in a pretty long time. But a lot did come over when the program was initially started. These days, South Sudan, Somalia, Syria, Afghanistan, Ukraine still comes in large numbers, are our biggest ones, in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah. Yeah. Last year we had about 1,500 refugees and humanitarian parolees. And I think that number is a little bit less this year than it was in last year. So this year I was looking and it looks like about 1,200. Okay, great. It's interesting just to note how times change and how some different things going on in the world and in the United States can shift and change the numbers that we see in Utah for refugees being resettled. And this happens every year. We have different numbers of refugees resettling in Utah. But with the exception of like 2017 to 2020, Utah usually has around 1,000 or more individuals being resettled each year. It's usually around the number. So let's talk about what to expect for World Refugee Day. We anticipate that we'll have up to 8,000 attendees. We hope to have about 100 volunteers there throughout the event, not necessarily at one time. Over 40 partner organizations will be there, and I would encourage you to kind of bump around and get to know a little bit about those organizations during your volunteer time if you have a minute. If you are on garbage duty, you know, it's okay to walk around, pick up garbage, but also talk with people, and hope that you'll take time to do that. And people from over 30 countries will be there too. So let's talk about your role as a volunteer. I have this model here that's something that we use in my organization, and I didn't do a great job of introducing myself. I'm representing the English Skills Learning Center, and we use this model to talk about what integration can look like for a community that really welcomes newcomers. And the first on the left, this model would show us what kind of the general understanding of what integration can look like, that we have newcomers on the outside represented in blue, and that the receiving members of the community in yellow are kind of within the community and waiting for people to come in. This puts a lot of onus on the newcomers, and there are a lot of inequities that exist in this model. If we looked at the middle model, where we have maybe a larger circle, we still have newcomers on the periphery, and there are still inequities that exist here. So even as a welcoming community, I think there's more that we can do to make integration happen. So what we're hoping for is that integration can look a little bit more like the diagram that we have on the right, where newcomers and established members of the community are all working together to create a more welcoming place, getting to know each other, learning from each other. And by volunteering at World Refugee Day, you're participating in this integration process on the right. And so we really appreciate you jumping in and being willing to work together with everyone and with newcomers to make ours a more welcoming community. So a couple things to keep in mind on the day of the event, that as volunteers, we're really about the community to celebrate, and that should be the focus, and making things run smoothly. You will see staff members from Refugee Services Office and partner organizations leading on all the different teams. So if you can, always defer to a staff member if anything arises. And Chris, what color shirts will staff be wearing?
Staff will be in pink this year, or purple, pink, and volunteers will be in blue.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So if you have a question that you can't answer immediately, look for somebody that's wearing pink or purplish, and they hopefully can answer that question for you quickly. And if there's a lull in responsibility, let's say you're standing in an area where there are not a lot of attendees participating, look for ways to keep helping out by picking up trash, because there's always garbage. But also find ways to engage with attendees, find ways to engage with the organizations that are represented there, and really maximize your time as a volunteer. Okay. So quickly, here's a map of the day of the event. This is oriented with the top as the north part of the park. So parking is largely on the southeast side of this park, and there's a bit of walking to do once you've parked. But I believe that you'll find the info booth first. Again, I'll ask Chris to confirm that.
That's the hope. It's laid out so that it should, all roads lead to the info booth, which is where the volunteers check in as well.
Yeah, so you'll be housed there at the info booth. There is a parking lot that's on the far west side of this park, and you might not even be able to see the event if you park on the west parking lot, which is on 1100 East. And I actually like parking over there. It's a bit of a walk, but just know that you can park. There's an entrance on 1100 East, but the main parking you can access from 1300 East if you haven't been to this park before. But this is how the event will be oriented, and you can take a screenshot, but you will get a one pager from Chris that will have your duties listed, as well as this park map attached to that. And Chris, I don't know if you saw a question in the chat about volunteers getting food.
I figured I can take questions at the end, but I will also jump in for that. We will have water and snacks available, but we don't have cards or vouchers for any of the food vendors, just because they're paying to be there, not. So we're trying to help support them.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so you'll get something that looks, this is just an example. What you'll get from Chris leading up to the event, this one pager that has your assignment, some examples of responsibilities, and then contact information if you have something urgent. So expect that with some information about your specific shift. But something that we can't stress enough is that this event is always hot and it's always windy. And so with that, please bring water and take time to drink that water. And if you don't feel well, sit down, let somebody know. You don't need to like work yourself to the point that you're feeling sick for this event. So please take care of yourself. Bring food with you, or take time to grab some food if you need to do that, so that you can be healthy and well through your whole volunteer time. But really, please we'll have water bottles for you, but please bring a refillable water that you can have with you as well. In addition to that, I'd also suggest comfortable shoes, a hat, sunscreen, all the things to take care of yourself when you're outside, because while there are booths, most of your volunteer shifts will include you not standing underneath one of those canopies. So mostly be out in the sun, in the wind. Yeah. Okay. So with that, you'll be assigned to a team. This is kind of our wrap up here. You'll be assigned to a team. Every team has a lead. If you have questions, you can ask Chris or a general staff member. Those staff members will be wearing pink t-shirts or purplish shirts. You'll get a one-pager. And if you have nothing going on in your volunteer shift for a moment, consider picking up garbage or getting to know some of the community organizations and community members that are there at the event. Okay, and with that, I will let Chris jump in with any additional things that you want to share, or if anyone has specific questions for Chris, you can put them in the chat or ask them now.
Thank you so much, Jess. I first want to say that we try our best to staff the shifts appropriately so that everyone will have things to do while they're there, but it's very hard to anticipate which parts of the events are going to be busy and at what times. So there may be times where I have put you in a shift, over by the food or the food trucks or by the global market, but there's nothing going on over there. If that's the case, just ask someone in a pink or purple shirt if you can help with anything. And if not, come back to the volunteer tent and I will probably send you to a different section. If there is absolutely nothing going on, we might walk around, fill up the water, fill up stations, help with trash, help people move things. Depending on what the event looks like, the year and every year looks different on where we need the most bodies. Last year was greatly kids' activities. The year prior, it was all food vendors because the wind was so intense that almost every volunteer was just like standing there holding a tent, including all of our staff as well. So it's kind of hard to anticipate this, but I don't want anyone to feel like they've wasted their time. So please check in with someone early if you're feeling like you don't know what to do. And in addition to that, being an engaging part of the event in of itself is an important part. So if you're walking around and you can't find anything, engage attendees, engage people at the booths, try to get people in doing things, celebrating, having fun. We've had some great volunteers with the kids' activities where they really get involved on the bounce houses. They set up races, they time people, things like that can make a big difference in the event. So try to find ways to get involved if you can. I'm going to go ahead and read some of these questions. So we have a camera, the food. Will there be security? So there is security, but we also have a free speech zone. And the years that I've been doing this, we have not needed the free speech zone. The only contention or raised voices that I've seen is over the soccer game. So as long as we can hopefully keep that trend going, we will not need it. Although I know this year, particularly with everything happening with Israel and Palestine, it has been a more hot button issue. So yes, there will be security there. If anything does happen, I know you'll be in a volunteer shirt. We don't expect you to handle this. Please let a staff member know immediately. The frequent issues that we get where staff might want to get involved is we have lots of lost kids. Happens frequently. They run away from their parents. They see bounce houses, and they want to go play. We try to ask the parents to stay with them, but most of the kids arrive already unattended. And then they decide they're hungry and they're like, oh, can't find my mom. They always come up to the stage. There's always reunification. It's great. Everyone is very happy when they find their parents. But that's not a situation for you to handle on your own. Just make sure you let somebody in a pink or purple shirt know. Um, or if needed, you can walk with that kid over to the stage. The DJ is well acquainted with how to handle that situation, as it happens a couple times every single year. The other ones is if anyone gets hurt, head over to that volunteer info booth, stuff like that. It would be, either going to the volunteer info booth or going over to the nearest staff member who's in one of those pink or purple shirts. Just mentioned it briefly when she was talking about getting food and water. Nothing at your station is so important that you cannot leave. And I want to reiterate that. We've had a couple of years where people have been really uncomfortable in the heat and not said anything because they didn't see me walking by at any point. But ask someone in a pink or purple shirt to stand in for you. Ask someone in a blue volunteer shirt to stand in for you. Or you can go if you need to. I know that there's bounce houses and there's kids activities. There are lots of people in this park at any given moment who are staff members or volunteers. It'll be okay. Just take care of what you need to take care of, and we'll worry about the stations and the shifts if needed, especially if there's an emergency. Just making sure everyone understands that. We won't know what we're helping with until we check in at our selected time slot, correct? That is correct. I've tried to give people shifts earlier, but we have a lot of dropouts at last minute. So shifts are constantly getting reworked. If you put in any requests, like that you would like to be in shade or that you can't stand, I have given you shifts that accommodate that. But if you didn't notice that on the registration form and are concerned about it, please just let me know, and I can solidify your shift now. People with any requests won't get moved around, but everyone else, unfortunately, because numbers tend to change right before the event, might get moved around, and that's why we wait until day of. Friday showing a chance of rain. Do we have a plan if the weather goes south? No, we do not have a plan for the weather going south. If attendees are not showing up because of the weather, then we will likely hang out in tents and while we wait for the organizers to call it or not. But if there's guests there, I would just recommend putting on a raincoat and then trying to huddle in the tents when we can. Since it's Utah, I'm guessing that we'll have a downpour for a couple of minutes and the sun will pop out. There are tents all over the park, so we can definitely get some cover quickly and then go back to the event and what we were doing before if that happens. If there's lightning, we're definitely gonna have to go to the cars, and if you don't have a car, there's a couple of structures that we can take shelter underneath. But that's the weather plan. Do we have any additional questions? All right. I don't know about all of you, but I typically remember my question the second the meeting is over. So if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Jess or myself. This event, I'm hugely grateful to all of you. As Jess mentioned, we couldn't do it without you. And I want to make sure that you have a good time and that you enjoy your experience volunteering. So please just keep in communication. I don't find it irritating at all when people email me lots of little questions. I'm much happier with knowing that you're feeling comfortable and ready for the event than the other case. These next couple of days, I barely get any work done. It's mostly dealing with this event. So just reach out. You can give me a call or whatever you need so that you're feeling ready. The other thing is I would highly suggest showing up a little bit early for your shift because of parking. If you can, around 10 minutes. aim for around 10 minutes early to be there, or 15 minutes, 10 minutes to be to the volunteer tent. It'll help make things a little bit smoother. And I would recommend staying after a little bit. I know y'all have been there for a while and you might be hot and want to get out of the sun, but there is some really cool parts of the event that I want to make sure that all of you get to see and participate in. The food trucks themselves are worth it. I overeat every single year because I can't decide which cuisine to go for. But the global market, the health partners, I know have a bunch of cool activities. The partner booths have activities and giveaways this year. So every part of the event will be pretty exciting. And just want to make sure that you all get the time to spend there. Yeah, I think that's all that I've got.
Yeah, I'll add my suggestion for tackling the food vendors is at the end of your shift, have your friends and family join you, and then you can kind of split up and try a little bit of everything. That's usually what I do when I work this event, is that I have people join me right when I'm done so that we can all hit one of the trucks and try something from everywhere and share it, because it's a lot of food. Well worth it.
That's a good idea.
I'm a pro at
Yep.
this point. I also would add too that if you enjoy your volunteer time, if you're interested in staying engaged with these communities, stay after and get to know some of the organizations that are participating there, because all of us have volunteer opportunities that are ongoing. So if you're looking for more ways to volunteer following this event, this is the place to find those opportunities, and we'll all be glad to talk to you about them.
Yeah, and the other thing with that is the partner organizations have a really good understanding of which volunteers would fit with which organization. We do a good job of kind of sharing volunteers in that regard. So if you talk with anyone, like if you go find Jess over at the ESLC booth, and she's like, "Oh, I think you'd be a really good fit for IRC's program or CCS's program." So as long as you talk to anyone who's kind of involved in that partner area, you'll find your way to the right place.
Yeah. Good. Well, with that, I want to get you all out of here on time. And again, thank you for taking time to come to this orientation and watch this. And send any questions that you have to Chris or to me. And we're just really looking forward to the event this weekend and seeing you all there. So thank you and have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone.